Tonight is the 14th of Kislev. Then our night goes before the day.
Yeah.
So it's already Yidden Kislev.
Not just halachic,
Yiddishkeit. But he Erev, by Biker. Not everything in Torah. By Karbonis, when it comes to Kachim, the night goes after the day. That means, for example, the carbon tamid, we finish putting off the limbs, we put it on at night, later on in the evening. That's Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv corresponds to those Evarim. The carbon tamid, you have one in the morning and one in the evening. One bein Biker, one bein Abayim.
What's the famous phrase with pickle? Nachal l'shnei yamim v'layla echad or something? I'm missing something. What? You know what I'm
Pickle
talking
something
about?
else.
The phrase.
Made the Fabregas at night.
Nachal what? You know what I'm saying? The famous.
Yeah.
Nachal what? What's the standard?
We say in Karbonis.
Yeah, I don't say
it depends which Karbonis.
Yeah, but
Kadashim, Kachim is that day
that day
and the next night.
and the next night. Oh, so the day goes before the night, you're saying?
The Rebbe also made the Fabregas.
The night goes after the day.
The night goes after the day by Karbonis.
Yeah.
And everything, and with the Yom Tovim, the day follows the night.
Yeah. And all other Yanim in Torah.
But
All
all
other
the Yanim and Torah except Karbonis, night is first, then day. Okay, I just want to put this.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody voted.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Boise Lamaise, so I want to discuss a little bit, since the anniversary of the Yom HaChasana of the Rebbe Yidden and Kislev. Discuss a little bit. Let's use this time to reflect on what does it mean on Chasana, on Kiddushin, on Pi Torah. I'm talking here from a halacha perspective, not a hashkafa perspective. Pashat halacha, straight halacha. Let's take a look at the Rambam, how the Rambam describes what is Kiddushin. And before we read, we have to understand like this. In Torah, there is two processes. It's called an Erusin, in other words, a Kiddushin. Those are synonymous languages. And then there's what's called an Isuin. It used to be, in ancient times, they were done at two different times. There would be, someone can make an Erusin, he gives, let's say, a ring to a woman, and he makes an Erusin, he says, Hareyak Mekudeshesli, B'tabazu, with this ring, or with he would use a star, a document. So there was different methods.
Coin, or whatever.
The beginning of Kiddushin says there are three methods a person can be Mekadesh, a woman, either through B'kesef, B'shtar, or B'biyah. Three Efanim. However, that is called Kiddushin Erusin. That's the first step. Then the way it was, the woman would stay home. She's still home by her parents' house. She doesn't go yet to live with her husband. She's in what's called an arusa, and he is called an arus, but they aren't yet fully married. The next step is called nisuin. She will go home, she would get ready, take her a year, whatever it is, and then when they're ready to set the date, and then, but she's already married. It's not an engagement. She is legally married. She's an Isha Pi Halacha, and someone who's boil her is Chayev Skila. So Chayev Misa. She's married to him, but it's not the stage where she actually lives with him on a day-to-day basis. That is called Nisuin. That is called Nisuin. Today's days, we do them both together. Under the chuppah, we do both. We first have Erusin, where he gives the ring and he says, Hareat Mekudeshesli B'tabazu. Then we go on to say the special brachas for Nisuin, and then we have the Yichud room where they go into the Yichud room together. And the Eidim sing the Shtar. We don't do Shtar today.
So what's the Ksuba?
No. Ksuba is something different. Ksuba is, no. It used to be, the Shtar was, it would say in it, if you wanted to be Mekadosh the Shtar, it would say in it, Hareat Li Mekudeshes B'shtar Zeh. Make a document, and instead of giving money or a ring,
instead of the ring, it would be
Ksuba is just a document that proves, that just says about how the monetary obligations to each other. The different obligations that we have. It's a very important document, the Ksuba, but it doesn't make the marriage. Today, how we get married, we have three ways to get married: Kesef, Shtar, and Bia. Chachamim Asr getting married with Bia, because it looked like Znus. And they kesef and shtar are okay, and the minig is that we do kesef. So that's the minig, and we don't just take stam kesef, we use a ring. So this is the minig, that we use a ring. But again, that's eris and kedusha, it's not nisuin.
What's the chuppah? The chuppah is not nisuin.
So chuppah is nisuin according to some opinions, just standing under the chuppah together, and we read the brachas and nisuin.
Yeah.
Others say you have to go into the yichud room, so that's why they go into the yichud room.
In other words, the yichud to be
the yichud room is your fully yait. Then it's nisuin. That's nisuin. So we do the two processes together today, at one shot. When it used to be, in times of Chazal, first you do Erisin, and then you give her time, she stays home, you know you're getting married to her, and she's your wife, but you still need time before you actually go and live together. So she gets ready, prepares what she needs to prepare, and you prepare, and then, sometime later, you make the Nisuin. Let's take a look in the Rambam. The Rambam explains to us how it was before Matan Torah and after Matan Torah. Right in the beginning of his Hilchos Ishus, he explains the marriage. Before Matan Torah, a person would meet someone in the marketplace. Imratza hu v'hi Lisa, Isa. If they both wanted to marry, Machnisa lebeisa, he brings her into his house. Ubayala beinoy lebein atzmai, he does bia. V'tiyalei leisha, and she will be for him a wife. Keep 1 second, let's finish the halacha. Kivan shenitna Torah, that was before Matan Torah. Once the Torah was given, it's Stavi Yisrael, the Yidden were commanded. Shem yirtza ha'ish lisa isha, someone wants to marry a woman. First, yakna oisat chilab fneidim. You first have to make a kinyan, an acquisition, before witnesses. V'achakach tiyaloi leisha. How do we know this? Shenemar yikach ish isha. First, the man has to take the wife, and then he can come upon her. Yeah.
What about this thing about on Tuvav? They said they would go out into the field rather than here a marketplace. Is there any difference, or it's just the times that were?
When it was in Tuvav, it was actually talking about after Matan Torah, but it was talking about engagements, getting engaged.
Oh, it was talking about getting engaged.
Engagement, api halacha, is meaningless. Engagement. Engagement, you just. It's not.
It's a social convention.
We actually make a kinyan.
They write it Noyim, it's more than a get.
Making a Noyim already gets a little more serious, but
we do it the same day.
We do it the same day.
Yeah, the Hasidic Oilam does the same. The Litvish already, they don't.
By the way, the Avos did it the right way, so why pre-Matan Torah didn't they have to do it the right way?
The Avos were the Avos. They did the whole Torah.
We're going to see the Avos did not do Kiddushin.
No.
We'll see soon. The Avos did not.
No, they didn't do Kiddushin, but they did the first and the important part.
Well, how do you think Lavan was able to fool Yaakov?
The copy fell there.
What's Kiddushin? What the chuppah?
No, Kiddushin is the ring. That's Kiddushin.
But
we actually read, you know that by the chuppah you always see that they honor someone to read the ksubah? You know why we read the ksubah? You don't need to read the ksubah. The ksubah is a written document. You can read it whenever you want. Why does someone need to announce it and to read it publicly? What makes the ksubah a document is because it's signed by the witnesses. It doesn't need to be read. What does the reading do? So the purpose of the reading actually is to make a hefsik, to split up between the erisin and the nesuin. We want to show it's two separate processes. So after you give the ring, let's take a break now, a short break, which used to be maybe a year to break. When we take a short break, we'll read the ksubah, and after we read the ksubah, we'll call people up to say the brachas, which is the birchas nisuin. We're already going on to the nisuin stage. So that's the two stages, erisin and nisuin. Well, the Maisa, before Matan Torah, there was no Kiddushin. There was no concept of Erisin. Someone would just meet someone in the market and make up to marry. It's not literal, just make up to marry. And as soon as she comes into his house and they live together, the living together, that was the marriage. But when the Torah commanded, you have to actually make a Kiddushin.
I learned by Rabbi Sidron that if somebody has beer, there's a big problem with the get. Because according to the before Matan Torah, that was already they were married already. You need all three, but one alone is also good. So it's a big problem. I mean,
The shaila is that the poskim deal with this today, where you have a lot of people that they don't know and they don't make an actual kedushin Yidden, so they go to the judge and they get married by the judge and they're living together. So came along one of the poskim of Henkin Olav Shalom, and he tainted that how do we view such marriages, civil marriages? So seemingly there has no halachic significance and they don't need a get if they separate. But Henkin held that no, the fact that they're living together in a state of marriage for so long, this is a real marriage. This is a marriage.
They do need a get.
We should have a get, and you should not a rav should not remarry them, not remarry this woman, or the man until there's a get given. But Moshe didn't hold of it. And Moshe Feinstein didn't agree. However, he was a little bit choishish for his chaver's words, and therefore he said, "L'chumra, you should get a get." But when situations where getting the get wouldn't be good, let's say she wanted to get married to a Goyim, and giving the get will mean she would now become a grusha and she won't be able to marry the Goyim. So Moshe wasn't so makfid on it. L'chatchila he said to get a get.
According to the Rambam, though, she'd be a Zionist if she lived with somebody, right? Outside of marriage, right?
Pashtus,
Jewish guy. Not if it's Jewish. He was Jewish. Right.
Oh, you're saying without a Kohen, right? If a Jewish, it wouldn't be a problem. If a lady was
wouldn't bustle her for a Kohen?
No, if she was a Jewish person, it wouldn't be.
Only if she got a get.
No. If she was with a Jewish person, even without a kedushin and without a get, she could still later on. She comes a Baal Shuvah. She wants to now marry a Kohen. She can marry a Kohen. She's not considered halachic zayna.
Not according to Rav Henkin, though.
Well, if they're living together like a marriage, according to Henkin, they need a get. Correct.
That's what we're talking about.
But what happens if they just were together? They weren't married.
Just once.
Girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. Then it wasn't. They weren't married. So then he would agree. You won't need a get.
But it says here, b'fnei Eidin, that's a deraisa din. I'm just curious.
Yes, there's a lot of discussions about it has to be that they live together in a Jewish neighborhood and people.
I'm saying without.
I'm saying you need to have Eidin.
Kedushin today, you need to have Eidin, and that's a din deraisa. If you don't have it, it's not good.
Question.
Right?
The intention goes on the guy, not on the living situation. If the guy says he's supposed to say Harei at Mukadeshis Li, she doesn't. She's not a party to it. If his intention is to marry her, and they do that,
she has to be a party. You can't marry a woman without her knowledge, without her rishos. It has to be with her rishos.
There's one of the pashas, the last pasha says in the Rashi.
Oh, so in other words,
only
he could have all the most virtuous intentions in the world, but if she doesn't, then it's not a marriage.
She doesn't think she's getting married. No, she's not married.
Oh, well, that gets me off the hook.
Okay. Let's not derive any halachic interpretation. You have to speak to your local rav. Let's talk a little bit over here. What's very interesting here is the Rambam here. The Rambam we know, everyone studies the Rambam. The Rambam is very exact and precise in his wording. He's very meduyik. So, L'maisa, the Ram over here describes how it was before the Torah was given, and then he describes how it is today. After the Torah was given, a person is supposed to make a kinyan, an acquisition, and acquire the woman first, and then go to marriage. Now, all other halachas, we don't find the Rambam describes to us the way things were done before the Torah was given. Over here he decides to give us a line and a half over here telling us about how it was before Matan Torah. What's it important to know how it was before Matan Torah? This is about, the Rambam is telling us halachas, how we have to live our life, but it's historical information. That's in another sefer, not here. It's sefer halacha over here. Doesn't need to tell us about how it was before Matan Torah. The only thing that this would be negeya would be to know the din of a ben noyach. The ben noyach, the halacha is that by Goyim, what is considered marriage by a Goy, one of the Shems of Benech, they're not allowed to they also are not allowed to marry someone else's wife. They're not allowed to be with someone else's wife, also as if she's an Eishes Ish. How is she considered an Eishes Ish? Api halacha, well, there was no Kiddush that happened. So the Rambam says that before Matan Torah, that's the Seder is still today for Goyim, as long as he took a lady and said that this, and they started living together, bekvius, in a permanent manner, that's considered his wife. It's an Eishes Ish. Another guy that comes on his wife is chayiv. That's considered. That's very.
But did they have to live back in the same house? Like
Yeah, they have to
Say
live
that
together.
He took, brought it to his place.
Live together like marriage life.
It's called by a guy. He's
He
married.
doesn't need to make a kedushin.
Right.
And not only that, by the way, if a guy would actually take, we'll see later on, if a guy would take a ring and give a ring to a lady and say, "You're married to me with this ring," which I don't know if a Goyim do that. No, don't they do that?
Of course,
They do.
It's
give her a
meaningless.
ring.
It doesn't make them. It doesn't make her an Ashes Ish.
They do in churches.
It doesn't make her Ashes. When it comes to the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach, she doesn't become an Ashes Ish.
Yeah.
And it's only when they start actually living together, and that's then they're an Ashes Ish B'nai Noach. However, if the Rambam will be coming to teach us over here the halachas of B'nai Noach, it doesn't apply over here. The Rambam has another sefer, his last sefer, Shoiftim, in the ending he writes about the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach and all the things that apply to Goyim. So over there will be the proper place to talk to us how marriage is before Matan Torah, and that's the way it is for Goyim. But this is a place for Yidden. And when you look in Hilchas Gerish and Hilchas Gittin of the Rambam, he doesn't tell you how Gittin was before Matan Torah. He doesn't say how it was. Now you know how it was before Matan Torah? The Rambam himself describes it when he discusses Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach.
Tells the lady, go
as soon as the lady leaves, whenever they get into an argument and the lady leaves, he sends her out from the house.
Right.
They're no longer living together. That means the ending of marriage. There's no document like we have a get. A get creates the.
The guy doesn't have to file for
over
divorce.
here, you don't have to file for divorce, not the way it's legally done today, and not for sure not to be a pi halacha. Al pi halacha, you're not living together in the same house. Doesn't mean that you're not married together. You still don't have a get.
Yeah.
As well, even LeHavdil for those legally today, you also need to get a divorce legally according to the American law.
Yeah.
But the way it was, api halacha, how does halacha view a goyish marriage?
Right.
They're living together in a permanent manner. They're married. As soon as they're not living together, they decide that's over. We're terminating the state. We're not going to be living together. They're goodbye. They don't even need documents, no papers, nothing. It's finished. The Rambam says that how a gerushin is by Goyim, a get is by Goyim. He says that by the halachas of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. But when it comes to Hilchas Gerushin, when he describes how a get is made by a Yid, he doesn't say before Matan Torah, the way it was, a person would just send a woman out from the house. But now that the Torah came about, we have to give a document, a get, and that makes the get. He doesn't say that. But by Kedushin, for some reason, that we're reading over here in Hilchas Ishus, the Rambam first describes to us how things were before Matan Torah, how things are by Goyim, and then it goes on to explain how things are by Yidden. So why is the Rambam doing this over here? Why is this important to tell us about how it was before Matan Torah?
Maybe Taka did the chayshish like Rav Hankin, On the other end, he doesn't want you to have any ideas. You have to have a get. So he doesn't describe the pre-Torah gets. But on Kedushin, he describes it, you hear what I'm saying?
You'll see.
There's some basis, Heista.
You'll see, there's some type of hint. You'll see over here too. So Lamaisa, let's take a look at this, the third page of the booklet. Siv Beis. The right column, Siv Beis. The third side in the booklet, the third side. Yeah, page 31. Page 31. L'chayra Beis. So Lamaisa, the Rebbe over here poses these strong questions and trying to understand what the Rambam wants with this statement over here about how things were before Matan Torah. It's not so important. Anyone who understands the Rambam would realize the Rambam wants something over here. He doesn't do this in Hilchos Gerish, and he doesn't listen to any mitzvah in the Torah tell us how things were before Torah was given. So we must say that there's some important reason why the Rambam's telling to us that even today there's some necessity that the Rambam is telling us of halacha with this. There's something that we need to know. So l'chora we can explain it like this. There's another sikh of the Rebbe in an earlier. This is from Chelek Lamed Tez, the last Chelek in Lekut Sichos. But in Chelek Lamed, in the 30th Chelek, the Rebbe has a very interesting sikh. He said we don't find by the Avos. You were speaking about the Avos before. We don't find by the Avos or the Shvatim that they did Kiddushin. It said that the Avos kept the Torah. The Gemara in Kiddushin says that Avraham Avinu kept even the Gzeirus Midrabanan before Matan Torah.
Even Erev.
Kept even Erev. So they kept everything. one thing we don't find anywhere that the Avis did the mitzvah of Kiddushin.
Why Yaakov sent present to Rachel?
Yeah, but that's not the way.
And that's how he fooled her, not because they were under a chuppah.
Not only that, the Kiddushin of Leah. The Kiddushin of Leah was not a real Kiddushin in England because it was a mistake.
It wasn't the right person.
It was a mistake. Mekach das. So the Maisa, we don't find. I'll call Panim. Let's talk on that Sikha. The Rebbe goes with Rashi. He explains according to the Shita of Rashi al Torah. Rashi al Torah goes with the Shita Pshutei Shal Mikra. In Pshutei Shal Mikra, we don't find that the Avis did Kiddushin. We find the Avis did a lot of mitzvahs, but we don't find that they did Kiddushin. Even though there are different midrashim that say that the Avis did do forms of Kiddushin. But let's put the midrashim aside. That Sikha was referring to Pshutei Shal Mikra, Rashi Shita. Upon in the Pashtus Aksuvim, we don't find that the Avis did the mitzvah of Kiddushin. And Taima Boy, we need a reason, but why not? They did all the other mitzvahs. Why were they not mishtadal to do the mitzvah of Kiddushin, the mitzvah of Erusin? So the Rebbe over there in that Sikha explains, which over here he puts it in a paragraph. We'll read it inside in a minute, but let's talk outside. He explains a very novel concept. The Rebbe says like this. When the Rambam over here says, he explains how marriage was before Matan Torah, and then he goes on to say what was a Chiddush HaTorah. Kivin shenitna Torah, it's Tabi Yisrael, the Yidden were commanded, Shem Yirseish L'Yisrael Yakno Yisat Chila. You have to make an acquisition, a kingdom first. So the Chiddush before Eden, that was the Chiddush of Matan Torah. Before Matan Torah, they just started living with each other, and that was it. And now you have to first make a Kiddush and a kingdom.
Before Matan Torah, how was the get?
So now you could think, we still have our question. Before Matan Torah, how was the get before Matan Torah? Then whenever he sent her out from the house, whenever they stopped living together. Yeah. No documents in it. No king in the beginning and no shar at the ending.
Lehavdil the same like a guy, in other words.
Before Matan Torah was like a guy. Yeah. A guy. That's not the way it works legally, but I'm saying, but that's the way Torah legally. Now, L'maisa, the Rebbe wants to say a very interesting chiddush in that sikha. That the Avis, why didn't they do Kiddushin? Why wouldn't they do Kiddushin? They did all the other mitzvahs. We don't find in the Pesukim that they did Kiddushin. It's because it wasn't possible for them to do Kiddushin. This is the concept of Kiddushin.
It's to aid them, their family.
Okay, no, but here's a different word. That making a kinyan. What is a Kiddushin? You make a kinyan. You acquire koina, the isha. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that a person should have an ability to acquire another person, and the person should be, the husband can acquire the wife, a kinyan. Give some money, give a ring or a star, and they can acquire.
Symbolic.
What does that mean? So symbolic is nice, but Torah says that he actually becomes a Eishes Ish and you chayiv misa for it. Someone who comes. What does that mean? You're not living together. You have nothing to do with each other. Just because you gave her a ring and you said a statement, that makes him your wife. It doesn't make any sense. It's a chiddush of the Torah. When Matan Torah was given, there was a chiddush. The chiddush was that a person not only has a mitzvah to marry, to make kiddushin before marriage, but that you're able to make a kiddushin. Again, you have the koyach to do it. Before Matan Torah, is that pshat that we didn't do it. It wasn't even possible to do it. There didn't exist such a concept that a person could make a king and an isha. We're not talking about something symbolic here. Kiddushin not symbolic. Kiddushin is really, she becomes your wife. Before Matan Torah was given, was such a chiddush. It didn't exist such a chiddush. There was no koyach. A man did not have a koyach to create kiddushin just by a kinyan. To make a marriage with a kinyan, it didn't make any sense. So it wasn't koyach. The obvious, even if they wanted to, it wasn't shaykh, because the Torah wasn't yet given. The Torah did not create such a concept. Once the Torah created such a concept, then it's here. The Torah, before the Torah created such a concept and gave such power into a man's king and of the Isha,
And that's why the
it doesn't exist. So therefore the Avos didn't do it. Because they couldn't do it.
That's why the Rambam started the halacha with this way. When, like he's saying in other words, when started the all lineage from Kiddushin after Matan Torah.
So over here, the Rambam, this is the Rebbe's first explanation. Based on that vart that the Rebbe says in another Sikha, maybe we could explain over here also. Why does the Rambam over here first tell us about how it was before Matan Torah? And then talk to us after Matan Torah? To bring out to us the Chiddush of the way of Kiddushin. That Kiddushin's a real big Chiddush. Before Matan Torah, this didn't exist. Not only didn't exist that the people didn't do it, there wasn't able to be such a concept. There was no power. A man didn't have a power to give money to a woman and she should become married to him. Or a star, or any of the three kinyanim, Kesef, star, and bia. It wasn't possible. So to bring out the Chiddush. But the Rebbe, Sof Kol Sof, is not happy with saying this biur that he himself gives, but to explain why the Rambam added this line here, because in the ending of the day, this is a sefer of halacha. What's the nafka in halacha? What difference in halacha does it make? True.
If somebody did like Matan Torah,
true, this brings out a chiddush.
Right, but
it brings out a chiddush over here that kiddushin is a big chiddush that before Matan Torah it wasn't shaykh kiddushin.
Right, so if somebody went to do like before Matan Torah, you should know you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Now it's different, and before you couldn't do. So if somebody went like before Matan Torah, the Rambam tell us, no, this is not a kiddushin.
It's not a kiddushin. So Lamaisa, but the Rambam didn't have to tell us that what it was before Matan Torah.
Otherwise he wouldn't know. Otherwise he wouldn't.
No, you just say the mitzvah of the Torah is you have to marry a woman, you have to do a king.
No, only this way, not like before Matan Torah. You have to tell you the positive and not like the negative. Otherwise you never know.
Why? You would say the only way you can marry someone is, you don't have to tell me what happened before Matan Torah. The only way you can marry someone is by doing a kiddushin, a kinyan before Edom. You don't have to tell me what was before Matan Torah. So when you tell us the way it was before Matan Torah, it does help us in understanding wise to bring out the innovation of the chiddush of what kiddushin is. But it doesn't change anything in halacha. So the Rebbe still wants to take it a step further. Let's take a look first inside. Siv Beis. L'chura yev shel that we can explain this, why the Rambam gave this introduction. Al pi mashin is bar bakamacher, what I explained somewhere else. Shekoydem Matan Torah lo'hoya shayich klol ingen l'kuchem elo da'achem Matan Torah. Before Matan Torah, it wasn't shayich the concept of this type of l'kuchem, this type of taking. Ki iyan eishes ish b'pashtus ein eish isha knuya l'baal ki chefes nikolad. Pasha, someone says a woman is married, it doesn't mean that the woman is bought by the husband like an object is bought. A person buys an object. A person buys something in a store, he gives money and he buys a kinyan. He buys a kinyan and a chayfetz. Pasha, that's not a marriage. A marriage is, the kiddushin is, they both come together and they become one unit, one household. Like it says by Adam Rishon v'davak be'ishtay. He was attached to his wife. So therefore, that b'pash is what marriage is. To come in mechadish, that kinyan can make a marriage. Lulei tzivi ha-Torah, without the commandment of the Torah, sha'odam yakan ois atchila, v'achati li'isha, that you should first make a kinyan, a makam loimish l'kuchen shebekoichem lifel, she'yachol al-isha sheim eishes ish, k'shadayin ina ishtem imumar ha-pashat. K'lei nivala, fil nichsel beis baila. Without the Torah telling us that there is such a concept and there's such an ability, we wouldn't have known it on our own. We wouldn't have known it and it wouldn't have worked. The Torah has to give the power and tell us that yes, by making a king in itself, the woman already becomes yours and she's considered an Eishes Ish.
But in other words,
because Vapash, if you think logically speaking, it's like, for example, there's certain things in the Torah we say it's a chiddush haTorah. We say by someone who damages someone's property, this is parenthetical, just an example. Someone who damages someone's property is called a mazik. Make damages, you have to pay for the damages. to us that makes sense, right? You have to pay when you damage. But if you think in halachic terms, so you damaged someone, right? You're a bad guy, you damaged. But it's by a ganif took your thing. So you say to the person, you have to give it back. And you also have to pay double, right? It's a knas, but you have to give back the object. It makes sense to give it back. Why? It's your object, you take it back. When it comes to damage, someone broke someone's window. Did he take the window? He didn't take the window. He was a bad person, he went and destroyed property. But why should I make him pay the value? Maybe he should pay more, maybe he should pay less. Give him a knas, he did something wrong. But the Torah says no. You have to pay back the amount that you damaged. Something the Torah was mechadish as a way of thinking, and it became so pashat by us. That's simple. Of course, you did damage, you have to pay for the damages. That's not so pashat. So you did damages. Maybe we should have a rule book of penalties of knasim, but not that the person you owe the money.
No, it's the fact that
a ganif took the money. A ganif took something of yours.
Yeah.
So he owes you that object back.
Right.
Someone damaged you. Who said they owe you the value of that object? They did something wrong, but they didn't take something from you. They didn't get the window.
Knas versus
yeah, it's more like it should be more like a penalty. But the Torah says no. The Torah is mechadish. Yeah, it's like a gneva, and you have to pay back the value of what you did. Anyways, that's a parenthetical. The Torah over here was mechadish that kinyan helps, and if the Torah wouldn't have said that, it doesn't make any sense. And it wouldn't work if we would try to do it. So if one of the others would try to give a tabas and make a kedushin, al pi pashtus haksuvim, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't be a kedushin. That's why the others didn't do it.
No, it's none of the three things.
None of the three things. Not kesef, shtar, bia also.
Right, because it's not living continuously together.
No, because bia was only a one-time bia, and afterwards they went away.
Right, so and the hechataisa that has a ceremonial.
That's a znus, maybe nothing to do with kedushin.
Right. But in other words, kaidam and Torah, the only thing that would make Ashes Ish is that they're together ongoing.
And that makes logical sense, meaning it doesn't make any sense. Why should I give a definition to marriage other than what marriage is?
Oh, I hear you.
If marriage is, what does marriage mean? Living together.
Right.
Why should we create a new definition that
right.
As soon as I give you some money, you're ready, my wife. But we're not living together. And it could be we won't live together. They could be, theoretically speaking, never live together the whole life.
Yeah.
He gives and sends money if you were shliach to someone in Australia, and he says, I'm marrying the woman.
You need a get.
And never gets married, you need a get. Right. Why? They never lived together. This is a chiddush. The Torah was mechadish that you have to make a kingdom first, and that a kingdom works. Otherwise it won't work if the Torah wouldn't have talked. So the Maisa, so the Rebbe said, Yishloimer, Shenaf Giminu Gam Bisman Hazeh, V'pnei Noyach. Also today there's a difference by a goy. If a goy will go before Matan Torah, there was no king, and now there's a king. But by Goyim also. A goy that will try any of these three methods mentioned the first Mishnah Kedushin, Kislev, Shtar, or Bia, he will try to marry a woman. Al pi halacha, halacha does not recognize that marriage between the two goyim. And then no one is chayav an Eishes Ish. She's not considered an Eishes Ish, and no one's chayav adultery for marrying, for being with that woman. She's not considered married. Nothing happened, because even for a goy to this very day, kinyan is meaningless for the goy. It has to be actually living together. But dying he pnuya kimoi lifnei ma'isa kinyan mamish. The Rambam himself writes as in Hilchos Malachim, Ein ben Noyach chayav on top of the second column, chayav al Eishes Chaverei ad she acha shenivel labayla. She has to first be married to her. Being ma'uris, erusin does not work. Erusin should not work by a goy. According to this, we could say that the reason why the Rambam, times the Hikdam Ram din Ishus Kelim Matan Torah, this is why the Rambam told us the dinim are before Matan Torah. To bring out the chiddush of the kiddush, the definition of kiddushin after Matan Torah. Or the Kachazinon. Shekoidem an Torah derech yichido litzer geder ish is the only way to create a status of marriage. It's only when they live together, husband and wife. But after Matan Torah, it needs to be a kingdom first. So this is first the Rebbe is in the outset trying to explain why the Rambam wanted this law. The Rebbe is not fully comfortable with it. It's a true point. Everything we said is true. That before Matan Torah there was no kinyan, and after Matan Torah there is a kinyan. And by Goyim today there's still no kinyan. It's all true and well. But to say that's why the Rambam gave this introduction, says the Rebbe, there's no difference in halacha. It just brings out the chiddush, but doesn't change anything in halacha. Beer is in maspik, it's not enough. He doesn't say it's wrong. He says it's not enough. Pile, by bringing up to us the way things were historically, does not change the status by a Goy. By a Goy it makes a difference, but not over here. Furthermore, we'll say outside, that the Rebbe brings down further, that in Hilchas Gerushin, you have the same chiddush, the opposite way. When it comes to giving a get, a gerushin, a divorce, the Rambam says what a get is when it comes to Hilchas Gerushin. He says you have to give a get. I have to write a document, a shtar. What happened before Matan Torah? What was a gerushin? The Rambam himself explains in the ending of a sefer, when it comes to Sheva Mitzvah Neach, that the way a divorce works by Goyim, as soon as she leaves, they don't live anymore together. That's it. There's no document. That's it. The Rambam in Hilchas Gerushin doesn't go and say before Matan Torah all someone had to do to annul a marriage is just to not live together anymore. After Matan Torah, you have to give a get. If the Rambam was out here to explain us the chiddush of the king and a kedushin, by bringing out us the way it was before Matan Torah, to contrast the before Matan Torah to after, why do you do the same thing by the get? Say, before Matan Torah you didn't need to give a get, and after Matan Torah you need to give a get. He doesn't say that. So there must be something more to what the Rambam means over here by telling us that. We'll take a look. We'll turn the page. Siv Gimel, page 32 in the right column.
In other words, before Matan Torah, we did have to have a certain thing to give a get.
No get was needed before Matan Torah. You stop living together.
How come the Rambam is not bringing it?
Oh, the question is why the Rambam in Hilchas Kiddushin did describe to us, contrast our marriages today to the way they were before Matan Torah. By Gerushin, he doesn't contrast the way it was before, that they would just stop living together. No need for a get. And after Matan Torah, you need a get. He didn't contrast. He just says, you have to give a get. It doesn't say
what we did before now.
Well, before Matan Torah. If the Rambam over here by Hilchas Kiddushin is here to bring out contrast, to bring out the innovation of Matan Torah over before Matan Torah, to do the same thing by Hilchas Gittin.
Right.
Bring it out. And he doesn't. So obviously we're going to have to say some other reason why the Rambam
didn't say anything.
Now, we spoke before there's Erusin and there's Nisuin. Erusin and there's Nisuin. Here comes the second Chiddush of the Rebbe. One Chiddush of the Rebbe is mainly not in the Sikha, it's in the other Sikha. The Rebbe quotes over here, where the Rebbe brings out that there was no such a concept as a king in Kedushin before Matan Torah. There was no, not only there was no obligation to make a king in Kedushin, but you weren't able to make a king in Kedushin before Matan Torah. That's one Chiddush.
When Yitzchak married Rivka,
it says he brought it.
Wasn't there?
Doesn't know. It says he brought it into his tent.
That's right.
Torah describes
that
it.
was the kedusha. But
no, that's the everything. Was a package deal. He brought her into the house, and that was it.
But wasn't the gifts that Eliezer was the shaliach for? Didn't they serve as a way?
It could be what you're saying, according to certain midrashim and certain mafarshim learned that way. But that the Rebbe over here and the Rebbe over here and that sicha goes with the pashat psukim. If you read the literal meaning of the psukim, pashat pshutei shalmik, you read the psukim, it doesn't say anything about any chuppahs, and he doesn't say that those gifts were marriage gifts. They were just gifts. you know, and all.
They were gifts
And
from Avraham
Yaakov
Avinu.
worked for 7 years for Leah. What is that 7 years? Just he decided he wanted to. I mean, answer that. Just answer that.
That's
What
love
is-
no Arami.
What does the 7? Excuse me. What does the 7 years represent?
That's so some of Farshim Taka learned that was a Kedushin. Well, the problem is, Lamashal, he said he was going to marry Rachel. Gave her Leah, and Yaakov still considered a Kedushin. According to our standards.
7 years.
Yeah. But according to our standards in halacha, that's not a halachic marriage. Halachically,
You have to know who you
firstly, he
married.
married 2 sisters, right? Furthermore, he married Leah and he thought she was Rachel. So, what that would be considered a mistake. Kiddushei Tos.
It would have been eligible for a get.
Not even a get, one big
because
mistake.
it was fraud. But they didn't have a get at that time. So what are we talking about? They had the tradition of giving something as a gift.
You know,
And
this
don't
government
blame
also
them.
considers
It
that
doesn't
two
say
people,
that you have to
Yeah,
give.
they did. They
two
did.
people live together.
Listen, what Reb David is saying, some opinions hold that way. This Sikh is going according to the opinion that they didn't do any Kedushin. But there's other opinions. The Rashi never mentions anywhere in the Torah that they did Kedushin. That's what we go with Rashi in the Sikh. Now, the Maisa, we have something right. We have Erusin and Isuin. What's the ultimate of marriage? It's not to stay by Erusin. Erusin is a preparation to get to Nisuin. Right? Give the woman time to get ready for Nisuin. There's Erusin, then there's Nisuin. So, very interesting. The Rambam in his halachas, he talks about right in the beginning. He discusses. We read those few lines discussing erusin, how you make a kedushin. 3 methods: kesef, shtar, and bia. How do you make nisuin? Create nisuin. He doesn't mention a word till 10 chapters later. Suddenly, 10 chapters later on, the Rambam remembers to tell us that there's a concept called nisuin. Nisuin, which we do both together, right? But the ultimate of erusin is the nisuin. That's the purpose of actually getting married together. The Rambam only explains that later on, which is very difficult to understand. Also, the Rambam in the beginning explains, in the beginning of his Hilchas Kiddushin, Hilchas Ishus, he explains 20 terminology, words you need to know. Terminology, gets you familiar with the terminology that he's going to, halachic terminology of Hilchas Kiddushin. He throws out 10 words and he defines 10 words. And remember these 10 words, 20 words, these 20 different concepts, because they're going to be coming up constantly in my halachas. I want you to remember them. He doesn't mention the word nisuin. Why does he mention the word nisuin? This is marriage. Eris, and then you go to nisuin. He doesn't mention a word about it. Mekoyach these questions, the Rebbe has a very novel chiddush in this sikha, where he basically learns like this. What changed from before Matan Torah to today was only the erusin, the concept of making a kingdom. But the concept of nisuin, marriage, of the actual marriage, remains the same as it was before Matan Torah. That's why the Rambam didn't bring it up 10 prakim later. Not only that, the Rambam brought it up the first line of Hilchas Kiddushin. What does the Rambam say? Let's go back to the first page. Koi de Matan Torah haya adam pegeya isha b'shuk. Before Matan Torah, a person could meet a woman in the marketplace. Imratzahu v'hi lisa isa. If they both want to get married, machnisa lebeisei, he brings her into his house. Ubayala beinei lebeinatzmei, and he has bia the tilisha, and she's his wife. Kivan shenit the Torah was given. It's Tavi Yisrael, that what do you have to do? Shemir Tzeish Lisa Isha. If a person wants to do Nisuin, Lisa Isha, you want to do Nisuin, Yakno Yisatchila B'fnei Eidim. First do a kingin before Eidim. V'achachach Tila Elisha. I mean, the Rambam is telling us essentially the status of Nisuin did not change from before Matan Torah to after Matan Torah. Matan Torah did not come over here to tell us a new type of Nisuin. Nisuin is the way it always was. What does marriage mean? Marriage means living together. That's Nisuin. That's Nisuin, that's marriage. Well, the Torah came to Mechadish one thing, that you have to make a kingdom before Erusin. A Kiddushin. That's all you have to do before. That's what the Torah says. The Torah does not say change the status of Nisuin according to the Rambam. Meaning, put it simpler terms. We know in halacha there's two concepts: there's Erusin and Nisuin. We both do them underneath the chuppah today. We do one after the other with the hefsek in between of reading the ksubah, but they're both done in one shot. They used to be, they were done at different times. A person made an Erusin and a year later they had an Nisuin. You would think that the Torah was mechadish to you, that Klal Yisrael has to do two things: Erusin and Nisuin. Comes along the Rambam and says no. Nisuin always existed. Nisuin existed before Matan Torah as well. People got married and lived together. That was Nisuin. The Torah came only to be mechadish to us one thing: you should do an Erusin before that Nisuin. You should make a kinyan and you should give her money, give her a ring before. But the actual marriage remains the same the way it was before Matan Torah. It's a marriage. We're not talking about hashkafa. Of course, hashkafa, Yiddish marriage is different. Halachically speaking, the only thing the Torah was machadish was the Erusin. Comes out, we had a shaila. How come the Rambam doesn't mention the concept of Nisuin, the second stage, till like 10 chapters later? Another question we had was, the Rambam in the beginning mentions 20, we don't have it in our copies, the Rambam mentions later on in the chapter, the first parak, 20 words, key words that you have to know for learning these halachas. He doesn't mention the word Nisuin. Explains the Rebbe Pashit. The Rambam did mention Nisuin. In the first line, when he told us the way it was before Matan Torah, that is the way it is today also. That is Nisuin. Nisuin is the same thing. Nothing changed about Nisuin. Nisuin is living together. But the Erusin, that's where the Chiddush of Torah was. The Erusin, the Kiddushin. That before you live together, you're not supposed to go and live together and have a Nisuin until you first make a Kiddushin. Now that was the Chiddush of the Torah. That you should make a Kiddushin before the Nisuin. And now we understand that the Rambam didn't write this Hakdama to tell us some history, and not even to bring out the Chiddush of how contrast Kiddushin is today to the way that it was before Matan Torah where it didn't exist. More than that, the Rambam is trying to bring out with his first line to tell us the halach of Nisuin. The halachas of Nisuin is the same. It teaches a very important thing. You should know it's the same concept as before Matan Torah. The only area that the Torah added a chiddush was in the Kiddushin. They have to make Kiddushin. But everything else is the same. Comes out the Rambam didn't wait 10 chapters. The Rambam, the first line, told us about Nisuin.
Erusin before Matan Torah was?
Erusin, no. No, Erusin, Kiddushin. Erusin is Kiddushin. The Nisuin, giving a money, making a kinyan, acquiring a wife, didn't exist. Not only was there no such a mitzvah, it didn't exist ability. Because what does it mean, a kinyan? Acquiring. That's not a marriage. Doesn't make any sense. When it comes to owning a property, owning something, it makes sense. You bought something, now it's yours. It's mine. What does it mean when it comes to marriage? You gave money to wife, she's yours. What does that mean? What is she yours? Are you living together? Are you acting as a married couple? No. So why should that very fact that you gave a kesef or shtar or a one-time bia, why should that show that you're married? So that was a chiddush of the Torah. Matan Torah gave us a mitzvah, ki yikach ish isha. First you have to have yikach ish isha. And then oba ilel. That is the Nisuin, the bia. But the actual Kiddushin, you have to have a Kiddushin first.
ויבואו אבינו יסד אלה שתו להם כל אשר תאמר לך אשתך שמע בקולה. זה אלה שאתה כל המורדי כל אשר אמר לך אשתך.
Says כל אשר תאמר לך שרה. כל אשר תאמר לך שרה שמע בקולה. But yes, it was a wife. It was a wife. But because before Matan Torah, you don't need to make a kinyan.
Only king.
You don't need to make a kinyan before Matan Torah.
So what did he say באשתך? Yaakov?
It's always a wife. Before Matan Torah, a person becomes a wife just by the very fact. By the way, I'll explain to you. Based on this, we can understand something very interesting. That what happens, we know, there's something called a chuppah's nida. A woman is a nida during the time of the chuppah. So, the Rambam has an opinion, which is not the majority opinion. So, halachically, we don't follow his opinion. But the Rambam's opinion is that a chuppah's nida, if someone makes a chuppah and the woman is a nida at that point, the marriage is not constituted a marriage. It's not a halachic marriage. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Even though you give her the ring.
Even though you gave her the ring.
Because there was no...
So they have to do it again?
The Erusin is valid, just the question is about the Nisuin.
Yeah, the Erusin is valid. The Erusin is valid. The Erusin is valid. You can give the ring. But the Nisuin is not going to be a Nisuin. The Erusin is not going to be...
Until after she goes to the mikveh.
Yeah?
Another 2 weeks.
So Lamaisa, you have a problem. Now it's a problem because you can't make the Nisuin. I mean, you have to make a Yichud. You have to go to the Cheder Yichud and the Chuppah afterwards, according to the Rambam.
Right.
So what do we? We don't rely. We follow the majority of Rishonim that don't hold like the Rambam. That no, you could make a Nisuin even though she is a Nida. L'chatchila, we also try to make sure she's not a Nida. L'chatchila, we try to concern for the Rambam's word. Try to time it. You try to make it good. Also, it's uncomfortable. It's not a comfortable marriage. People don't want to have such a marriage if she's a Nida. So you rather try to work it out. And some people they take the different pills, all those different things. But Lamaisa, the Rambam held that a Nisuin is not an Nisuin. You're only an Arusa. Why? This follows the sheet of the Rambam, explains the Rebbe. Since the Rambam held, what is Nisuin? Nisuin, nothing changed. That definition of Nisuin did not change from before Matan Torah to now. Definition of Nisuin means living together as a husband and wife. So since she's a Nida, you can't live together as a husband and wife.
So you're not really married yet.
You don't have Nisuin yet. So according to the Rambam's Mahalich, that the whole Chiddush of Torah created by marriage was just the Kiddushin aspect. But that before you do the Nisuin, you should have a Kiddushin. But the actual Nisuin remains the same. After you have the Kiddushin, you go on to the same Nisuin that always was. Stays the same. We understand the Rambam Shita. Why a Nida, Chuppah's Nida, is not a good Chuppah. Because Chuppah, by the way, is connected to Nisuin. Chuppah and the Yichud. The actual Erusin doesn't need the Chuppah. Actual Erusin. And it was Lamaisa just a little bit. Tonight was the anniversary of the Rebbe Rebbetzin. The Rebbe used to verbring some years on this date. In the LeKavod, he said that the Rebbe one time said that the way how he came connected to Chassidim was through this marriage, because that's how he became the son-in-law of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So it was the first time the Rebbe verbring. It was 25 years after 25th year anniversary. One of the Chassidim who was involved in the Shidduch between the Rebbe Rebbetzin, one of the older Chassidim, after davening on Shabbos, he went and knocked on the Rebbe's door, and he said that he's demanding Shatchanis geld. He wants money for the Shidduch. 25 years ago, he never got paid for the helping out in the Shidduch. Yeah. So he said he wants for the Rebbe should verbring, and the verbring of the Rebbe, that will be the Shidduch geld.
Oh, wow.
So Lamaisa, the Rebbe said, okay, give him a few minutes, whatever, and a half hour later the Rebbe came out in Fabring, and then he spoke a lot about a lot of different minhagim, explained a lot of minhagim by the Kedushin, why things were done a certain way.
So that was the first Fabring?
Yeah, that was the first time that he
came out.
He was Rebbe for 4 years. Yeah.
He had been 4 years Rebbe, and then he made the first Fabring.
Yeah, he did a Fabring every year.
Yeah,
you know.
but I'm saying that first one had to do with the shot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and there's a
nice
Maisa, but here you see...
You didn't take the Rebbetzin out on an anniversary or something?
You know that the Rebbe's one of the Rebbe's secretaries, Rabbi Krinsky, the Rebbe when he got engaged, then the Rebbe wanted to go to visit the Camp Gan Yisrael.
When
Rabbi Krinsky, Rabbi Huda Krinsky, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, was engaged, so the Rebbe at that point wanted to go visit camp, and he used to drive the Rebbe, and there were not so many chacham that had licenses, so he had a license. So the Rebbe asked him to drive him upstate. So he didn't tell the Rebbe tonight's the Var, tonight's the L'chaim, you know. But he had hoped that he'll go to camp and he'll be able to be back in time for the L'chaim. But meanwhile he went, and they got stuck on the way and and finally came. And meanwhile he was all stuck upstate with the Rebbe. The Rebbe's bringing with the camp and with the camp. And there was and the L'chaim was going on without him over there. So he came back late at night, like 12 or something, and he dropped the Rebbe at his house. And then the Rebbe turned around to him and said, don't you have some mazel tov and everything? He said, yeah, tonight was the L'chaim.
He knew the Rebbe.
He went to L'chaim, he found a few people still left there.